Ahoy! Today we have a very interesting game about Wukong, the Journey to the West story, that I wanted to show you guys, which looks really cool. And I'm gonna give you a lot more info about this game in just a second as well. But this game has a bit of an intro, or the trailer has a bit of an intro beforehand, that I wanted to read along so that you get the introduction, and then afterwards I will give you more details about the game itself while we watch the trailer and how the gameplay looks. You must have heard the stories about him. Some say he helped Tang Seng fetch the Buddhist scriptures, becoming the victorious fighting Buddha. From then on, he stayed in Lingshan. Some say it wasn't him who was granted Buddhahood. The real him was already dead on the journey to the West. Some say there was no such journey. He's just a storyteller's fictional monkey. But you must have heard the story I'm going to tell. This story starts with a golden cicada. Alright, here we go. Here we have the visuals of the game. This is a pre-alpha game build. They are very much emphasizing that because it's in a very early stage. It will be a long time until this game actually comes out. The game is called Black Myth Wukong, and it's made by Game Science Studio. And you may possibly know that name, because I actually made a video about a game from them a long time ago. The game was Art of War Red Tides. It was a mobile game that now has a PC port as well, which I actually really enjoyed. I know a lot of you didn't like that very much, but I actually enjoyed that game. It was like a one-lane strategy game that had sufficient depth for what it was, though, and it was still like a fun time waste. I actually ended up playing it after making the sponsored video even. But anyways, they tried something completely new and went from simple mobile game to this, an action RPG, single player action RPG. This game, when it's finished eventually, is planned to be released on PC as well as all mainstream consoles. I don't know if that includes Switch as well. I guess it'll depend on the exact technical requirements. You can already see that he's got some pretty cool mechanics, pretty cool abilities, and I think this will set this game apart from quite a few others. The studio has said that they're inspired by God of War, Monster Hunter, and Sekiro in terms of, well, gameplay, and they've been playing those while making this game. And I think it implements various factors from these different games. You'll see a lot of dodging here, but it's also very cool in terms of the different abilities that you get to use, because he actually, like Wukong would, uses 72 different abilities based on his 72 transformations. Though not every ability is a full-on transformation, I think. By the way, a lot of the information that I will tell you is from Daniel Ahmad, at ZugX on Twitter. I will link his Twitter down below as well as from their website. You can actually translate the website. It's in Chinese, but it's actually, you know, just Google Translate it and you can read a lot of it, and most of it is understandable. So you can check that out yourself afterwards as well. The studio behind this is, well, they're not really an indie studio. I guess they are an indie studio anyway. So it's their first game of this type at all. They had another game aside of Art of War beforehand, but it was nothing like this. I like that mechanic, by the way. I like that a lot. The block mechanic that he has. That seems to counter certain attacks if you time it right. I'm assuming that this, by the way, where he picks this up, gives him like some fire abilities. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to give him that weapon full on, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And the studio that's working on this game started in 2017, so it must have been like after Red Tides, roughly. And they started with 13 devs, and they're now up to 30 devs, and they're still hiring 19 more at this point. And this trailer is also meant to help them get more devs. They just need more people that want to work with them on this project, because It's quite a complex one, as you can probably tell. That's so cool. I love that you can just sneak past things by using the cicada transformation. They put a very heavy emphasis on these characters, on these mystical characters that all have their own stories. And a lot of your gameplay is apparently also figuring out what their stories are and why they are the way they are and everything. Dev Team has previously worked on another game. They've worked on a Journey to the West MMO under Tencent. But then they left Tencent because they wanted to make a single-player focused game about Journey to the West. Or that was one of their ideas at least. And now they're basically finally getting around to the main thing that they wanted to do after doing some simpler projects beforehand. As for how you can get the game when it's eventually coming out, the plan is to make it a normal purchase. You just have to buy the game. But potentially have more paid DLC in the future. But that's something that's still, you know, well on the horizon. They just said that that's what they think they might do potentially. But yeah, it's just gonna be, you know, like your most Souls-like games, like most single-player RPGs. You just buy the game outright and you play through it and then maybe buy a DLC at a later point. So that's like the main information that we have about the game at the moment. I think it looks really cool, and we're going to see, I've watched a little bit of the trailer, we're going to see some of the abilities here. I think these abilities, for example, these fire abilities, are probably ones that he got from beating that other enemy with his fire staff. So you can use those, but from what I've seen, from what I skipped through, it gets a whole lot flashier than this. You have an interesting mix of combat. I think it's not as dodge heavy as some other games. You can see that he can stand in the middle and just turn into this big monkey and then just go all out. But like, he can take some damage, but you still have to dodge certain attacks quite a lot. So I don't know if it is more like Souls-like or more classic RPG or somewhere in between. But I'm guessing they're still trying to determine that anyways. I think the fact that you have some very strong abilities means that it's not going to be the hardest game yet you could imagine. But then again, I guess that's also something that highly depends on the difficulty level. I could imagine that this is one that they will have at least 3 different levels of difficulty. It's very interesting, by the way, this game basically came into the into existence because Steam is now picking up Steam in China. So people are actually playing on Steam in China, and the AAA market is opening up more. And therefore the developers are saying, okay, it's actually worth for us to look into that type of stuff. It's actually something that we can make money with in China as well. Which is why this trailer is in Chinese, by the way. But as it's been retweeted by Daniel Amat, there's been a lot of international interest as well. I definitely am interested. And this fight, by the way, this was one of the reasons why I was almost considering to not make a video of this initially, because I figured this would be the perfect montage for like a Sun Wukong versus Fenrir old fight. Just throw that in there somehow. But I might still make that anyways at some point. Not the most frequent matchup. But it looks really cool. Like even with this big guy, you can see that if you do these counters at the right time, you can still block some of the attacks. And obviously you can dodge some of them. I am not entirely sure. You seem to have a health bar. Like if you look at the bottom left, you have like 3 bars. I think that like the bottom one is the stamina bar. So obviously the more basic attacks, the more dashes you use, the more that goes down. The top one I think is the health bar. And then the middle one, I am guessing, is like a mana bar for his abilities. But it's not quite clear to me what uses mana or how to restore it. We'll see that when he transforms again as well. You can definitely see the top bar here, you take damage, lose health. But then again, all work and procs as well, might be changed. And here you can actually see his clones, his decoys. I think that's really cool. It's actually multiple and not just one. But that used mana as well, so you know, if you would do that too much, you'd run out of mana. And it has a cooldown, as you can see with the abilities on the left too. And it can be countered, so some characters can counter things in different ways. Actually, looking at that, now we have the fire staff that the enemy that we fought before had. You might just be transforming into him, actually. And we don't have mana, and we don't have anything but HP right now. So yeah, never mind that before. Maybe he had that fire ability from the start, and maybe this is just the full transformation that he gets from the staff itself. It definitely seems to work pretty well against I'm just gonna call him Fenrir. Because it burns up his fur as well, so it might be like a counter to him or something. And it seems like this character in this form has significantly higher damage, but you can also see that eventually it runs out. But this looks so cool. Like the visual style in this combat is just really enjoyable in my opinion. It's like it's very fluid and very quick. And if they can make all of the encounters like this, I think it will be very cool. Even though I feel like the visual messaging for getting hit by an enemy or getting hits on an enemy could be a bit clearer. But I mean, details. This is a very clear God of War vibe here, obviously. The typical execute. Or not. Somebody who knows the whole story of Journey to the West may understood that one. I have no idea what's happening there, but... Visually very pleasing, very impressive for like a studio that's working on the first game of this kind. There's some more clips on their website, some short clips where they just show off the visuals and it just looks really nice. They're not really worth showing here, I think, but it's just some environmental stuff. So that's really cool. You can also see here like there's so many different types of enemies. In very different areas, very different scenery as well. So I really like that. Oh wow, I didn't even see that before. You can actually fly on the cloud at some point as well. Oh god. Okay, the game definitely gets a lot more extreme. Yep, a lot more. Yeah, I think that's all for this trailer. I think that's what they've... No? I don't know, maybe not. I don't know if there's anything afterwards. Yeah, that's the website here where you can check out some more info about that. Either way, it looks very interesting to me. I most certainly am going to keep an eye on it, and if there's any major updates to it, then I will let you know as well. Could be exciting, could be a really fun one, even if, like, even just to play through it once. I think this seems like a really cool game to watch. Nope, that's not what I want to do. But yeah, that's all for this. Now YouTube is telling us some funny stuff. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the sub button and maybe the bell. And other than that, I'll see you for the next one, well, basically tonight. Duke Sloth, out.